Sorry, due to storage issue, it got cut in between. So yes, we had till now in the earlier video we had discussed how the Yeltsins came to power, how was the situation of the newly independent Russia and the other 15 former Soviet republics, and what were the challenges that they were facing. Now let's try to understand what kind of role and what kind of responsibilities were taken by the Yeltsins as a president. So, with the Soviet Union out of the way, Yeltsins eliminated most prices control, privatized a slew of major state assets, allowed for the ownership of the private property, and otherwise embraced free market principles. So, these were the major shifts into the Russian economies, and these crucial decisions, these financial matters were looked after by the Yeltsins as soon as he became the president. So, this was the major shift for the Russia, and let's see how what are the other measures that he had taken under his watch. A stock exchange, commodities exchange, and the private banks all came into being. But although a few oligarchs became shockingly wealthy, many Russians lapsed deeper into the poverty due to the rampant inflation and the rising cost of living. This was the major challenge because as suddenly Yeltsin has started privatizing the firms and privatizing various industries which were earlier owned by the government, now no soon remained as a property of the government, and this create a kind of very much gap between the people who became very rich sooner, and those people were known as the oligarchs, and on the other hand side, there was some section of society who could find very difficult to fulfill even their basic necessities of life. So this gap between the rich and the poor got increased during the Yeltsin's policies, which were, I think, which were not having a proper base as such to be successfully implemented in the Russia. So this was the major challenge. Yeltsin's Russia also struggled with the taint of being an ex superpower, and with the corruption, lawlessness, decreased industrial output, falling life expectancies, etc. Moreover, Yeltsin began treating himself to some of the perks, such as Chofrod, limoshness, then that he had previously criticized. As president, Yeltsin broke from his Soviet predecessors by generally supporting freedom of the press, permitting public criticism, and letting Western popular culture seep into the country. He also agreed his tilts towards West can be clearly seen not only in terms of just by accepting the laissez-faire policy, by just accepting a so-called development of the democratic model for the Russia, but also in socio-cultural matters. We do see a kind of a tilt of Russia towards the Western countries can be clearly demarcated. So Yeltsin had also agreed to nuclear arms reductions and brought home soldiers from the Eastern Europe and the former Soviet republics. Nonetheless, he did not completely disavow military action. After surviving impeachment proceedings, Yeltsin disbanded the communist dominated parliament in September 1993 and called for elections to a new legislature. He then resolved the ensuing standoff by ordering tanks to shell the parliamentary building. The following year, Yeltsin sent troops into the breakaway Republic of Chechnya, an action that left roughly 80,000 people dead. The majority of them were the civilians. Though the fighting ceased in August 1996, it picked back up again in 1999 and lasted most of the next decade. However, the issue of Chechnya was successfully, in a way, various measures has been taken during the president of the Vladimir Putin, and the issue has been resolved. However, this issue was became more complex during the period of the Yeltsins, the issue of Chechnya. Then there were some health problems, some of them caused by heavy drinking, eventually began to take their toll on the Yeltsins. In 1995 alone, he had at least three heart attacks. Yet he decided to run for the president anyway in 1996, winning a second term and then undergoing a quintuple bypass surgery. Near the end of his time in office, he survived another round of an impeachment proceedings and went through a string of prime ministers. In August 1998, the ruble collapsed, and there were 1998, the period became very crucial because of the financial crisis. The 1998 period is also known for the financial crisis, and Russia defaulted on its treasury bills. Soon after, the economy finally turned around with the help of rising oil prices. Now let's see what the other independence movement, those were arised, and these were also led, and these movements in the various other former republics led to the disintegration movement. So let's go through these movements as well. After the coup, the republics moved rapidly to claim their independence. In a vain attempt to preserve its power, the Communist Party of Belarus led the rush by declaring independence on August 25, just 72 hours after Gorbachev's return to Moscow. On 27th August, the Parliament and the Grand National Assembly of Moldova, renamed Moldova, proclaimed the republic's independence and initiated the process of leaving the Soviet Union. In September, all the three Baltic states, that is Latvia, Lithuania and Estonia, they formally left Soviet Union and were admitted to the United Nations as an independent states. Georgia and Armenia each went into their own way, and Kazakhstan and Kyrgyzia, that is Kyrgyzstan, took control of their republic's resources and began economic reforms and privatization. The other Central Asian republics tended to support continued union, but they lack, unfortunately, the economic and political influence of their neighbors. In November, seven republics, including Russia, agreed to form a new union of sovereign states, but it remained a shell. On December 1st, Ukraine voted overwhelmingly for the independence, and a week later, on 8th December, representatives from the three Slavic republics, that is Belarus, Russia, and Ukraine, met in Brest, Belarus, that is in Belarus, and declared that the Soviet